in threat detection, right? The first and foremost part is you want to quantify what kind of a. Let me open my editor as well. I'm just gonna type it over here. The first and foremost thing, right? The requirement part is to understand where exactly the data would be present. That's the gonna be. It can be sitting on your a log server, application server, applications, and you also can have a database. You also have some authentication system, and you have your gateways. So data can be collected from all different sources. That is the first and foremost one. Even before that, right? You just have to see what is a definition of a threat, because each and every company may have a own definition of a threat, even within the across team, right? Hey, my form of threat detection is to do a credit card authorization or credit card fraudulent activity. That can be a definition of a threat. The other way of identification threat, hey, if somebody is doing repeated login or trying to do some sort of attack into the system by trying to guess a password, right? That also can be quantified to the attack. So the definition of attack should be clear. Attack or a threat, right? Attack or a threat should be qualified properly. So in your case, like what is the definition of a threat or a attack here, Will? Any use case you know from your organization, hey, this is what a kind of a threat people tend to do. You know anything about that?
Yeah, so the kind of threat that people try to do is so to describe it. So just on a Nutrigram, sometimes uh, the site is built in a way that some requests that have you can so people try to navigate in a way that they try to make changes to a status. Let's say, for instance, sometimes some status you have to be approver to be able you have to get approval. You have to be approved to be able to get to the next step of an application process. They try to want to get into the site to want to make changes to the status, want to get themselves approved already. So uh, so I want to be able to understand because sometimes we see those people trying to make changes. So it's like making an update uh, to the site, and they definitely they get denied and all that. So yeah, that's pretty much uh, that situation.
Okay, I just written a kind of a flowchart. User comes and access a web application. So depending upon the access control, we need to take a two decision whether to provide access or deny the access. Correct. So if they have the access, you need to allow them. If there's not access, you need to deny it completely. Is that the flow has been captured
Yes,
properly here?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
perfect. So the first and foremost thing in terms of threat detection, right? So you need to think about something called thresholding part. Let me give you what is the definition of threshold, right? Threshold or a tolerance limit. So, for example, in case of threat detection, right, assuming that you don't have access to some resources or to access some sort of a thing, or let me put it in the way. I am a registered user, no problem here. I am a registered user, and now I want to access the web application. Till this point, I don't have a problem. After that, for one of the use case, for example, to let's take a simple example of a Jira, right? Let's take example of Jira. I wanted to take a Jira as an application. Then I want to say that, hey, I want to create a ticket or I want to delete a ticket. Maybe that's easier. Delete ticket is not quite allowed easily. Want delete ticket, and now I have two jobs. How is access? Yes. Then you have something called access no. In this case, if there's access no, then the whole idea would be is I'm not supposed to delete the ticket. On the other hand, on this case, I will be I would be allowed to allowed to delete the ticket. So in this case, right, if how does it actually works in real time? So if I'm a registered user, access a web application, like the web app is like a Jira or any sort of a ticketing system where I want to delete the ticket. So on a worst case, I don't have access, then which means that I'll not be allowed to make any changes on the ticketing system. But what really will happen here is sometimes the user who might have legitimate access or who had access will try to accomplish it. They might be feeling wondered, hey, why is that my earlier I had access to my application, suddenly the access to the application got prohibited. So if they're making one or two times, it's okay. I don't see a problem because they might be doing it unintentionally. But many a times if people exactly know that hey, I want to bypass the whole requirement, I want to gain access into the whole server, right, they'll be hitting multiple times, not just one, more than 3, 5, 10, etc. So yeah, people making a random mistake all the way to people making intentional mistake, right, that is two different thing altogether. Very similar to a password, right? So password, our system usually allows like 3 times password can be entered incorrectly, but I can also set the policy even if you have typed incorrectly even once, the number of times the security instance will be created will be far more higher. So you got to understand like what is the tolerance limit you need to design for an application. Like what is exactly a threat? Now we have quantified thing that if somebody doesn't have access to a certain thing, you should try to mitigate it. Now a follow-up question back to you, Will. If you have identified that a certain activity is a threat, right? What is the next activity you would generally perform? Whether you're gonna report the user or you're gonna block the user or you're gonna create a ticket to the manager, how does it whole process looks like building a company? Will, a question to
So
you. Yeah, yeah.
now I don't know. That's why I'm trying to know.
Okay,
So
sure.
from my perspective, I would say that um in that situation, if there's too many access, that IP might be blocked. Um, if there's too many access, too many try, or maybe a temporary block, or maybe a permanent block. Some kind of block might be placed just to be sure if um, this is something fraudulent or this is a mistake. So yeah, I think that would be one of the steps to take, but
Perfect.
I'm not
So
sure.
you have, yeah. So now you also quantified, hey, we're gonna have a threat. Threat, once the threat can, we can send a simple email notification or trigger alert or a ticket to the manager, just from my experience, or a temporary block or a permanent block. Or you can say that, hey, contact IT team for further assistance. You can have any sort of a different experience to catalog the end-to-end experience. Now we have identified like the what is a threat thing to be done. So now the first and foremost part, now where you want to have the access control, like who will have access, etc., right? Usually in all the web application, right, I'll just go back to my thing. The first and foremost part would be like, hey, from where exactly you wanted to go and collect the data. That is the first and foremost rule, because if the data is not available, then the entire threat detection or whatever we call it, right, that is not even possible or not even a use case to be there. So first and foremost is to see from where I can get the access to the log file. So by any chance, do you know like from where exactly the data will be captured here, Will? Is it going to be application server or can be web application? Do you know like where exactly going to access the data by any chance?
Well, it just depends on the kind of data they're trying to access. Now, if it's something that has to do with password, it's going to be something from. So it might be that they're trying to try different password, and they get
Hmm.
so in that situation, it's going to be the application server. Now, if it's they're trying to change a password, so in that is already stored or saved, so that would be the database server. So um, it can be either the database server or the application server.
Okay. Okay, in this case, like it can be any server for that matter. Usually, in all the enterprises, right, they usually have a centralized logging either through Zappix system. I'm not sure whether your company is using Zappix. Is one of the vendor out there who actually provides a notification to the system. Like at least it's gonna get the data to you. Zappix is one of the tool where people tend to collect the data. Okay, this is one of the tool. Or people use something called tool called AdvanNet. So this is also one of the tool people tend to use it within the platform where they trying to track freakingly every other parameter within the system, and they wanted to capture all the data. So that is how people tend to do. Now, in our use case, right, let's try a simple example to see how in a Ubuntu machine. I'm just taking one example. Okay, in a Ubuntu machine, if multiple password has been entered incorrectly, we want to ship all these information back into the Elasticsearch, and we want to create a simple alert. Let's try doing that. For first, we need to know in Linux how do we figure out like somebody has entered incorrect password multiple times. So you can actually get the information from the what we call the system logs.
Yes,
Actually, I'm just
syslog.
gonna, yeah, syslog. I'm just gonna say where log authentication. Auth log is what like usually have all the information. So in this case, if you notice here, have entered an incorrect password on February 16. Like once I've set a failed password, it's trying to do it. Let me show you how can I generate one more failed password here. I'm just trying to type in to a different user, or maybe I'll try sudo sudo su. Uh, I made a proper password. I'm going to executing it. I'm gonna make a, oh shit, this terminal is being persistent. Close. I've entered incorrect password. Let's see whether the information has been populated. You see, right? When I've attempted like sometime back 10:51, I've entered an incorrect password that has been captured by the log file. You're able to see, right? This is from the authentication. You can do a simple tailing to the file as well. Tail -f var log auth. You're gonna see all the different terminals and sessions being created, but our objective is to simply understand the mission is one. If somebody is entering multiple times the password, I want to capture it in my whole system. Now we want to, let's accomplish it. Now we found like, hey, this is a simple command to verify it. Now let's use file b to capture the data from this location and try to take the log file. I've already installed the file bit in this. We have tried the seen some example, right? We will try a file bit over here. Data ELK 9.2.4, and you have the file bit installed. Before even file bit, let me start Elasticsearch in this machine. Bin/Elasticsearch. Let it start. Parallelly, let's go into the file bit folder, and within file bit, let's try to come and configure the modules here. And let's go and try to do modules.d, and under which, depending on, you have all these different servers like CrowdStrike, Apache, Azure, etc. These are the different servers we have. In our use case, we just wanted to go to simply to a systemd module and open system.yml. I'm just opening this configuration file. Here, if you notice here, I have like multiple modules, syslog, etc. authorization logs. Now I just want to go and enable the authorization flag to be true. I'm just enabling so that I want to capture this information. And now I also want to set the path here. The paths in the location here is going to be, let's copy from the terminal, like what is the exact location the log file is located. This is the log file. So I have chosen the module, and I've also chosen like the authorization log. Now it's all set to go. I'm gonna also set the star pattern so that any log file comes in the folder. I want to test it out. Now let me go into the file beat actual YAML file. File beats. It says that changes to be enabled, enable configuration, file beat. Okay. It says Elasticsearch. So we have not started the Kibana here. Now our job is to collect the data from the server or from the machine or server. What kind of data are we going to capture? I'm going to collect the authorization logs. Authorization logs is the primary candidate. And how are we going to accomplish? We're going to use the file beat to collect the data. And file beat will send the data to Elasticsearch and which can be visualized through Kibana. This is the traditional flow we have seen here. In last class, we have seen how to create alerts in the Kibana for Elasticsearch, right? We'll also try to see how does the alerting mechanism works. So both Elastic and Kibana got started. Let's verify. Starting now. Let me go to DevTools and show you that we don't have any data. It's almost a clean machine. We don't have any file beat logs over here. We do have only Linux internal alerts, and we don't have anything all. We just have the Titan data set. Now let's go into our system and we'll try to use file B to push the data here. So just open the file bit here. I'm gonna start the file bit now. Sudo file bit. So file bit hyphen e. I'm just gonna hit this thing over here. Now this will try to capture all the log file from my machine. Let's try to notice. Oh, I need to change the password, etc. Let me go and quickly modify it. In the file YAML, we have changed the password, etc. Right? We need to copy those. So where's the password? Control C. Saved it. SSL verification equal to none. SSL enable. Setup dashboard. Okay, it all looks good now. If I start it, it should work. It says connection established. You see this line, right? I'm able to establish a connection with the given server. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna generate uh, multiple logs here, which is gonna start showing up that the password has been incorrect here. 3 incorrect password. I'm gonna type it a few more times. So I've entered almost like 6 times the failed password. Now let's verify the information from this part. See, I'm able to get multiple attempts. The password got authentication failure. The more thing would be like the authentication failure. Let me type here. authentication. So I'm having this multiple entries that my whole log file is all been having an issue. Now let's go to the Elasticsearch and see whether the index got created or not. Whereas, do you see this entry here, right? ds.filebit. We did not have the ds.filebit. Let's verify whether do we have entry for this one. Control C. I'm gonna query it. Get underscore search. Oh, what is it? Oh, dot has been missed. So I'm having, you see the authorization log from this folder, right? I'm able to see whenever the authentication failure is happening, I'm able to capture this information. So we got the, now with the definition here, whenever somebody is making incorrect password, I want to have the notified. Let's even count for one time we want to get the notified here. Next step is to go to the alerting system and let's create a simple alert here. Or rules, let's quantify the rules in first hand. Um, this is not required. We will use a watchers. Stack management. Within stack management, I can go and say that watchers. Clear all. Create new threshold alerts. Now it's asking like what is the thing? Password failure. Password failure. The indices I need to query here is like a file file bit dot ds. Let me copy the query here. This is the index I want to. Doesn't have a timestamp field. That's fine. Run every minute. It should have a timestamp field, but why is it not having? Now let me go to the dev tools. Ideally, it should have a timestamp. Why the timestamp is not coming up? Here is the timestamp. But why is that GPU stalled due to read pixels? We have a timestamp field. Get. Let's check the schema whether there's a timestamp is there or not. Controller. There is a timestamp field. Why the system is not able to capture it? Let me go and check the properties here. So mapping, we have a timestamp field, but why is it not get picked up? I'll copy the name. Yeah, sometime I think some static issue, I believe. Timestamp has been selected, and now you need to set the rule. So it says when count is over, document is blah blah blah. Right now we have to write a custom query or a custom condition to match the thing instead of the count. Right? We're gonna come and say that for all document no is above no for last five. You need to give that specific condition. How do we can? One second. So the condition needs to be set. Okay, let me write a simple condition. Let's write a simple query here. Password failure. There should be a way to modify it. Okay, let's call count on all document is above. Where is that customization? Yeah, that's what I was searching. Password failure ID. Now it says that how often you want to run that scheduling job. I'm gonna say for every 5 minutes, check me the thing, and the querying is the payload is equal to 3 times. That is my condition, and action is like there is a threat number of a threshold is 3. In this case, I'm gonna say what is my condition. I need to accomplish it here. So I'm gonna write a simple condition which can copy the whole stuff over here. I'm gonna type in the condition. Do you understand like what is the condition I wrote over here? Like, well, I've chosen like, hey, anything having a file beat star, consider that as the index here, and as the phrase called failed password, the one what we gave in the shell command, right? And the timestamp is like less than any time from now to 5 minutes. Clear? I'm not making any fancy stuff over here. Even if you want to write the same query on the dev tool, right? The system should be returning back to you. If you come here and type get file beat star query query. I'm just gonna match the same condition here. The condition here I've just given that hey, whenever there's a exact thing getting matched up, I need to set the policy here. I'm just gonna copy his as is to show you that whatever we're trying doing in dev tool, right, it's gonna seems to be working or not. Now it says that time is calculator. I'm just gonna remove this timestamp alone because we want to check all the entries here. Fail password, file beat, and query match phrase message. Query um message. Now you see right wherever I had a failed password, I'm able to just do the failure now. And now I'm gonna say failed authentication. Why is that the case? Is that the word I'm missing out incorrectly here? Failed password, sorry. Failed password. Message. I'm gonna type um failed how many record? Failed to protect, failed to ban content. So we'll see whether all kind of fail is being retrieved or not. Now, if I want to set the alert, hey, whenever there's a failed application has been done, let's try this one, match phrase, and let's execute it, create watch. Now I've created a password failure. Now I'll try to make attempts to the system here. I'll try to make less than a minute. Let's say 1 second. I'm making the tolerance too small so that we get the whole system without waiting for 5 minutes. Save the watcher. I'm gonna type the incorrect password multiple times. Now let's check out in the thing whether I'll be able to get this information. So now for my username, it says that hey, I've tried multiple times the same password. I'm having authentication failure now. Now let's go back to the system and check whether those logs have been retrieved or not. So coming here, if I do a search and it says that see, 3 times incorrect password attempt is being captured here. So all the way from your Linux machine, I'm able to send the data back to Elasticsearch. Now my job is to make sure that I can able to query or create a watcher accordingly. So let me see if there is able to be captured or not. So the alert is like a condition missed like 16 seconds ago. Failed. Failure is the word. The incorrect password attempts. Authentic. Let me put failure here. Failure. mm, I'll make a few more attempts. If not, I need to increase the interval within 30 seconds. Let me just make it the time to be less than 30 seconds. Sometimes we'll just check for within a second. 30, 30. One, two, three. So in this example, within 30 seconds, we should be able to hit the condition here. So now after accomplishing it, let's verify whether are we able to hit the condition. Meeting the condition 2 minutes back. Let's query it now. Authentication failure 11:13. Exactly like few seconds back, we're able to see that the failure got received in our end. Now let's wait for a few seconds to get it activated now. Okay, now I refresh the whole system here. Now within see right, the failure password it got a thread detected within a minute back. So in our given condition, we have said that hey, whenever such condition exists, why don't you go and create a log file into our platform within the dev tool. So we asked them to create a index out of it. If you see the index out of it, like the failure info and index log, the two indexes we are asked them to create. Whenever such failure exists, we want to have the log file being created. So this log file will have the information saying that, okay, the thread dot detection. Now it is your job or our job is to go and verify what kind of actions we like to perform it over here. In this case, if I while creating alert, right? Let's say if I wanted to do a testing part, let me go. Let me take a next system syslog, right? If I'm trying to select a field, it'll ask you the actions here, whether you want to create a pager duty or Slack alert or logging system, right? You can actually define it. So all the way from taking the log file from a Linux machine, pushing to Elasticsearch with the help of FileBeat, and once you configure the alert, and then you can decide whether you want to do a permanent action or not. In your use case, you said like, hey, I want to ban the user for temporarily or permanently, right? All these actively usually have some kind of webhooks being available. Webhooks are nothing but a event. If you make a request to that event, that event will be triggered or executed, because disabling an event cannot be done with help of Elasticsearch, because Elasticsearch is not a IT infrastructure tool. It's a tool to collect the data. It can give you only notification that, hey, I've noticed this information. If you want to act on top of it, it's up to us to make that activity. So likewise, if you have to call to your internal system or having a webhook being created to disable the password. So you get the idea, right? Will how we start all the way from the data collection, pushing data, setting up alert, and creating the destination or activity what you like to accomplish here. Any questions? Any questions here, Will? The first stop is to go and collect of a thread. First step, and where is exactly the file is located, and how do we get access to the file. Then use FileBeat or Hotstack to get the correct data and push into Elasticsearch. Step number 3, once it is all been done, your job is to go and collect the or monitor the information, like what create an alert. And once alert is being created, then you have to define the action. Actions can be sending out an email, calling a webhook, etc. It's totally up to us. Clear, right? Any
Yeah.
questions?
So this is done on the system on the system log, right?
Yes,
And you can also do the same authorization on an application log.
exactly. You just have to have access to the application log. That is all you might require.
So let me ask you this question. So let's say you have an application that contains PII data.
Okay.
What will you do in that situation? And, so let's say for instance you have an application that have PII data, and
Okay.
the application is not the application log has not been ingested into Elastic. Now
Mm-hmm.
the goal is to go ahead and talk to those application team and make sure they flow, or make sure the logs have been flown into, or the logs have been directed into Elastic. After you set that up, how can you set up monitoring based on the PII data coming from that log? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Pretty much the same stuff what we did in our lab or the exercise we saw, right? First step,
Mm-hmm.
you have to know where exactly the log file is located. You said the application or a PID collection system, right? It
Yeah.
might be running in either in a Windows machine or a Linux machine, or you will have the data available in some log centralized system. Only
Mm-hmm.
these are the three possibilities you will have the information. Now the next step is whether do you have a relevant permission to access the log file. Step number 2. Okay. After collecting the log file, right? Either in this example, we saw the file beat. Hey, we want to take the file location from this location, right? The authorization part.
Yeah.
Likewise, the log file can be sitting on any of the C drive or D drive, or it could be any of the path within the Linux machine. Once you have configured, right, all the logs from that machine will be flowing into Elasticsearch.
Okay.
After which, then you can set the alert, and rest of things are like straightforward. That is all you need to do. So it's pretty much whatever we did. Instead of the authorization log, you need to
Mm-hmm.
point to the location where the exact file logs of the authentication system you're referring, right? That is being
Yeah.
located. That is all you need to do it well. I think that's all things remain same, except you need to change the source from where you collect the data. None other problem or no other difference. It's all the same.